I think these two conditions, health challenges, are the most misunderstood conditions out there because first of all, so many people suffer from this. But the problem is they go about it wrong. Look, I'm going to do a series, and there's so much here that I can't give it to you all in one time. As a matter of fact, I am going to show you how to use a blood pressure cuff that you can buy anywhere for $20 to $50, depending on how dramatic you want to be with the technology. But you use a blood pressure cuff as a gauge, something called orthostatic blood pressure, to determine how and what your cortisol levels are doing, what your adrenals are doing, because that's part of the picture. All right, so you're going to get that, I think, in part 2. I'll show you that trick. But I'm also going to give you some tricks that I use to deal with this. Look, every client I have, my doctors, they all have sleep and anxiety issues to some degree at some point. So we need these little tricks while we're working upstream to the real problem. A lot of the times, most often, trapped toxins and emotions that we need to actually get them to sleep. So also stay tuned for that. When I was going through this myself, I always look back, and sleep and anxiety was actually the hardest part. My wife's actually my camera girl. Would you agree with that?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was devastating.
That was my problem too.
Yeah, it was our problem too. But I dreaded night. And night would come and I would grow more and more anxious, wouldn't it? Because I knew that I could be up during the night. I never grew comfortable with that because I knew I also had to get up and still try to make things happen during the day. Hence, the fatigue would happen the next day. But also, what happens is your adrenal glands start come back firing during the day, and it leaves you anxious. And when I would work downstream, and I said this in other videos, with trying to strengthen my adrenals or my thyroid, I would often create, hey, I have more energy, but I'm creating more anxiety and more sleep problems. So as I just tipped you off, there's a problem here with the pituitary that sits in your brain, controls your thyroid, controls your adrenals. I've been talking about that triad, if you will, that axis that goes on. You can't win this game, I'm telling you. It's really difficult. So many people start to understand that the adrenals, etc., play into this, and they try to address it, but it never solves the problem. Of course, many of you took everything, right? Melatonin from everything, every sleep product on the market. Works for a little bit, and then it stops. But I'm going to give you some tricks there as well. All right, let me talk to you about really what's happening here too. So we've talked in past about ketosis, about most Americans being sugar burners with the cellular inability to use fat for energy. Why is that significant? How does it play into sleep? Here's how. Because when you're sleeping during the night, you can't get up and eat. Actually, though, some people do. But the point is this. During the day, if your cells are stuck as sugar burners, remember, cells can use two things for energy, sugar or fat. So if your cells are stuck as sugar burners with the inability hormonally to burn fat, in the daytime, it can give you a craving, and you go, oh my gosh, I want that. And okay, it solves its problem. Or you come to the conclusion that eating multiple meals during the day helps you. And I'm sure it does, even though it's not healthy. So, these kind of strategies go on during the day and you kind of rescue yourself. But what happens at night? Now, at night, your body has a choice. It can break muscle down into sugar and solve the problem to get glucose for the brain. See, your brain can only use glucose, right? Or ketones. It can't use fat, all right? Ketones are the byproduct of fat metabolism. Well, if you can't break down fat and make ketones, your brain can't use those. Can it break down muscle? Problem is, it takes time to do that. Oftentimes, the glucose levels at night, because of adrenal exhaustion and other problems at the cell, drop so fast, the brain is in danger of actually damage. It won't allow that to happen. So guess what it does? The adrenals, boom, rise up, cortisol or adrenaline, one or the other. So they come in this fight mode in the middle of the night, and boom, you wake up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. How many of you has that happened to, right? Well, that was me. I would literally go through phases where I couldn't get to sleep, or I'd fall asleep and wake up in the middle of the night. You remember those days, hon?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Not only would I wake up in the middle of the night, unfortunately, and that's probably most people's case, I would wake up with anxiety, feeling of dread, because the adrenaline would go so high. And by the way, that's how you know it's adrenaline, not just cortisol, when you wake up like just uneasy feelings of dread. And Mary, remember you would say, well, what do you feel like? And I just said I would feel like crying sometimes. I just didn't know, what this feeling was. And I just wanted to crawl in a ball and cry. And I would make it worse, I'm sure, perpetuating my thoughts of the next day, being wiped out, tired. Here's what happens the next day. The adrenal glands oftentimes come fighting back, and it creates more anxiety. So how do we know this? Stay tuned in part 2, because I'll talk about this orthostatic blood pressure, how to determine what your adrenal glands are doing, because you have to do different things at different times to deal with this problem. Otherwise, you make yourself worse. So I'm kind of baiting you on tomorrow's video. But here's the other thing. So what happens is that your body at night is trying to save its life by raising up cortisol and adrenaline to get glucose for the brain. It works. You don't die, right? But the problem is you don't sleep. So if we can deal with that and understand what is actually happening, now we can maybe get somewhere. So we'll talk about this. There is one product that I love. It's called Seriphos, Seriphos, and another one called Calm, Calm. Those two products work on that, knocking down cortisol and adrenaline. Some work better for other. One works better than the other. Sometimes in combination.
Before ski races.
Yeah, Mara takes Seriphos before ski races because it knocks down that cortisol rise. Literally, she's looking at ski, her hand starts shaking. It's like, dang, you forgot the Seriphos.
Yeah, camera.
Not good for the adrenals. But here's the other part that happens too. Oftentimes, then the adrenal glands burn out, and now during the day they can't even fight back, and now you're absolute adrenal exhaustion. But the problem with adrenal exhaustion is at night. Now what happens is it can't even bolster up enough cortisol to save your brain with glucose, because remember, if it increases cortisol, it can actually increase your glucose. But it can't do that. So that's where the adrenaline comes from. It can just boom, create that adrenaline spike. Nasty. That's what was happening to me. Complete adrenal exhaustion. Believe me, listen to my words. You will not fix your adrenal problem by addressing the adrenals. You have to band-aid these things until you're upstream. I know I talk a lot about toxins, talked a lot about trapped emotions. Look, the pituitary and something else called the pineal gland that actually hangs out outside your blood-brain barrier. These are heavy metal magnets. I have said, until I got enough mercury out of those two glands, I was never able to sleep through the night. So I was dealing with the issue as best as I could while this was coming out. And at a certain point, as I did multiple brain phases, I was able to get enough of the metals out to where I could start sleeping through the night. That was a huge breakthrough.
For both of us.
For both of us, yeah. She's still traumatized
I am.
by my lack of sleep. Trust me, she is.
I mean, just for a little humor, because we can laugh about it now a little bit. I remember if I just moved in the middle of the night, I would, if I came face to face with him, he'd say, "I'm not sleeping."
Yeah, well, because if she moved, then maybe she was awake, and maybe I would be able to suck some sympathy out of her, because
exactly.
I just wanted her.
I'm glad you admit that.
I'll say something else a little more even embarrassing, but it just popped into my mind, so I'll say it. But the nights I could get her up, and they were really bad nights, and this is why I just want to forget about the camera. I'm going to get teary-eyed and go hug her, because she would tickle my back on some really bad nights, and when she would do that, it would that was a natural way, and she was doing it half asleep, trust me, probably, it's like, but she would, and I would just cortisol down enough, and literally it would still probably take 45 minutes to an hour, and she would fall asleep in between. I would say something to wake her back up.
I think
that would bring me down.
I think some of my questions were formulated around like what I could do to calm you, and have it was okay, right?
Not to get too far off the subject, but a lot of her trapped emotions that we talked about today were from some of my inability to deal with any stress, not sleeping, because by day, of course, my adrenals were shot, okay? And I couldn't adapt even to noise, and I would flip, I would freak out, and she never knew when those were coming. So, she held anger against that, in a trapped emotion, not in a bad way.
Right.
In a trapped emotion, right? Yeah, exactly. So not
just
consciously. Traumatized, right?
Yeah.
Any trauma creates trapped emotions, any bad emotions. So no matter what, that's going to happen to your spouse. Trust me,
absolutely.
it already is. So, go back and watch the episodes on trapped emotions.
And I think the key is, which took you a long time, is realizing that it's not personal, right? Because you felt responsible.
I got angry when I heard those words because I felt responsible. But when I learned, that's just part of it.
Right.
It's like there's nothing I could have done. I created those trapped emotions, and it is what it is. And believe me, if you're a sleep person,
the situation created
this. That's right. The situation.
Wasn't you.
See?
It took you a long time.
She always has better language patterns.
Even though I've been saying the same language, it's just taking you a long time to hear
She's
it.
She's gotten more. She's down the road there further than I am. But we've come through it. I bring these videos. Please share this because I promise you, sleep and anxiety problems, they're all over your Facebook. I'm going to bring some really amazing answers to learn. Again, from pain to purpose. We learned it in the hard stuff, right?
Yep, for sure.
But
everyone learns it in the hard stuff.
Yeah, everyone learns it in the hard stuff. As my adrenal glands did, they flattened out. I couldn't bring them back. And again, I would try at times to do this, do that. The only way I was successful is using this orthostatic blood pressure technique, which I'll show you in the next video. But ultimately, when I was upstream, pulling the metals out of the hypothalamus pituitary, I'll tell you what, that was ultimately, and the pineal gland, which, by the way, that's the gland that allows you to sleep, make melatonin. So, that absolutely was the long-term answer. Now I sleep like a baby. Oh, I don't have my ring on, but that tells me how much delta sleep
we'll talk
I
about
get.
that.
We'll talk about that. Because now I can measure my delta sleep and actually look at how much deep sleep.
So now I know how much better he sleeps than me every night.
We always thought she was sleeping really well until we got her ring, and it was like she's getting 8% delta sleep. She wasn't sleeping good at all. So
thank you for that too, by the way. Conditioned.
So we'll talk about
I'm doing a lot of things at night. Sometimes I have to do laundry. You just have to do it.
She gets up in the middle of the night and lets cats in and out. She's dealing with cats. Imagine that.
My cat. Because if I'm not, you're mad at those kitties.
Yeah, I do. I ticked at those cats, man. Believe me, they're up causing problems. And it's another story. So anyways, the sleep issue runs deep, really. out of this. How do you learn this stuff unless you go through it? Trust me, you absolutely don't. But this glucose thing. So, bottom line is, a tip for today is this. Getting your cells to burn fat efficiently. All the strategies I've taught you in past videos. Intermittent fasting, ketosis, diet variation, feast famine cycles. All of this plays into this. Remember, multi-therapeutic approach. It's not just one thing. We have to turn off genes that got turned on. That's my 5 R's cellular work. Done tons of videos on my website on that. True cellular detox. I'm going like this because these are legs of the stool. That's how I show a multi-therapeutic approach. And getting the toxins, really out of the brain and the deep tissues, these glands, that's key. And of course, even our microbiome. Matter of fact, I'm going to give you one of my tricks right now. Okay. The gut is a big part of this, producing the right chemicals in the brain, neurotransmitters. It gets trashed upon toxicity and stress, etc. So one of the things that we had learned is at night, I was filled with pathogens, too many chronic infections, parasites, candida, all of it. Not to mention the fact that I was always circulating too many toxins. Something happens at night. The Chinese call it liver time. The liver literally drops toxins from the liver through the bile into the gut. And boom, it causes the cortisol rise too. It's horrific. And then these toxins are going, everything goes south. So taking a little bind, B-I-N-D, it's a carbon, there's 4 different binders in this stuff. It binds inorganic toxins like heavy metals. It binds biotoxins like you get from a lot of these infections, parasites, etc. We take it before bed because that's when the body releases this, even as part of its circadian rhythm, it releases these infections and toxins. We want that bind to be there as a protector. Otherwise, it creates the stress cycle, which is nasty. Your body reabsorbs, auto-intoxicates the toxins. We want that bind to be there at night as a catcher's mitt. So liver time. I wish I had found out that little trick out sooner. So that's the first trick I'm going to give you. Believe me, in this series, I've got a lot more. But bind as a binder, carbon doesn't work, clays don't work, they're contaminated. The carbon that is in Bind is a special carbon that has a massive binding surface. It literally is an active form of carbon that's clean, pharmacy grade stuff. They get it from Europe, super expensive, but it works. And there's other binders in there that bind heavy metals better than even carbon that binds really organics better. So you have to have multiple binders in there. But point is we were putting those products together, to sleep. And I say we because Warren Phillips, who you've seen before, he was part of that non-sleeping group as well. So we learned some tricks.
Did we ever tell that story about Esther?
No.
We'll do that. We should do that another time.
Yeah, okay. So remind me, those watching, about the Bind story. It was the early days. We were putting this special carbon in bigger containers. I promise you, someone watching this would be like, I know that. Remember?
Yeah, Gina's on.
BioClear, Sean Teller. I mean, some of these docs will remember that, right? I think we'll get some feedback on it. But it was called BioClear. It was a big thing with this active. This stuff's called active, super activated carbon, right? And long story short, it can blow up, okay? So this was the early days, but this stuff's powerful. But anyways, we would take this stuff before bed. It wasn't in capsules then. It wasn't in capsules then. But we would take it before bed. Magic, I'm telling you, part of the magic. But so anyways, Sarah Foss gave you that little tip. Bind gave you that little tip. So as we go through this series, you'll learn more how to use those. So there it is. I set it up. Sleep and anxiety. Please share and like this, and let me hear your comments because I want to get people in on this series. This will lead them even to the other videos that we've done. And that is going to make a difference. Be part of the difference or part of the problem. Choose to be a 3%er and be part of the solution. I'll see you on the next video.